Zimbabwe Zambia Cold War. Hichilema and Mnangagwa. Now, the Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has hit back at ED in a cryptic message. And we see President Emerson Mnangagwa calling for dialogue so that people don't die. Is he now scared? Following President ED's utterances in Russia, what happened in Zambia? Serious disturbances there. The Zambian war veterans causing commotion for Hakainde Hichilema. Now another question is, who will remove who first, ED or Hakainde Hichilema? So I thought President Mnangagwa's utterances in Russia would silence Hakainde Hichilema, but it seems Hichilema is not backing down. Hichilema is not backing down. So I'm just going to play the video where we see Hakainde Hichilema speaking. But before we do that, let's go to this one also that is causing commotion and havoc, sparking controversy on social media. We have none other than Mr. Kembo Mohadi. So we see this video, this sad video. And this is a sorry situation we see here. And there's been calls for the resignation of Vice President Kembo Mohadi. We all know that Kembo Mohadi is the second most powerful person in ZANU-PF. He is the second secretary of ZANU-PF. In ZANU-PF, Kembo Mohadi is more powerful than Vice President Constantino Chiwenga. ED is the first secretary, then Kembo Mohadi is the second secretary. Now let's check this out. What happened here?
And cultural learnings. Yet they found common ground in the fight for a free Zimbabwe. The spirit of
All right, so we see here, he was at a function, sounding exhausted and sounding very frail. Then he says, I can't. Then he takes a seat. Right? So there's been issues, health concerns. A few weeks ago, we saw some stories talking about Kembo Mohadi's collapse at a function. He said to have collapsed somewhere. Or maybe it is this function that they were talking about. Right? So it said that Kembo Mohadi collapsed and the intelligence ordered the journalists there to delete the footage. They ordered journalists to delete the footage that they had taken there. Also on the President ED in Russia video, we are seeing other stories suggesting that there is a Herald journalist who is under fire for leaking that video. Personally, I don't think that video was leaked. I think it was deliberate. It was a deliberate attempt to silence Hakainde Hichilema when he comes for the SADC conference to be held in Zimbabwe in August. Now this issue, ED calling for dialogue, he does that while at an interview in Russia, right? So he's been asked about Russia and Ukraine. What does he do? He speaks on Zimbabwe.
Let me assure you, Zimbabwe's policy is for dialogue. We promote dialogue. Wherever there's conflict in any part of the world, our stance is that we should promote dialogue. So wherever there's conflict, our position is that let us promote dialogue, because with dialogue, you remove the issue of dying of people.
All right, where there is dialogue, you remove the issue of dying of people. He talks of our stance as Zimbabwe, right? This is our default mindset. We don't change because of changing situations. The thing is dialogue. Now, what does dialogue mean? What he is doing right now is actually dialogue. He's sending a message, right? So whoever the message is meant for will get the message, so that people don't do what? So that people don't die.
To death.
So that people do not die. We saw this one where ED is in Russia, back in Russia, where they were speaking of
We
hyenas.
have lots of hyenas in Zimbabwe. But we keep them in the national parks.
We do have lots of hyenas in Zimbabwe, but we do keep them in the national parks. Now, these parks he was talking about, was he talking about the Chikurubi prison? What had been the story here prior to him saying this one? This is what they were talking about.
Yes. It's almost for the third time during the 100 years that...
All right, we're back again. Enough respect to everybody who's watching us live. All right, so what was being talked about here?
And there's a chance that you can do that, but there's a high chance that they will tear your clothes, and if you get tired, they will bite you to death. If you can kill a couple of them, then they will disperse. You know, President Mnangagwa knows about the behavior of hyenas. Do you agree, Mr. President?
All right, if you can kill a few of them, then the rest of them will disperse. Now, President Mnangagwa knows of hyenas back there in Zimbabwe. He doesn't ask, does President Mnangagwa know of hyenas? Right? Now, we're talking of metaphorical hyenas here. Okay, they were referring to the Europeans as hyenas at the beginning of this clip. Right? That's where we see President ED are making the response that no, they don't give us a problem. We keep them in the zoo. If you want, we can give them to you. Then Putin will make this response. He says, no, we have a lot of them here in Europe.
I'm no hunter. Well, we've got hyenas of our own, yes, in Europe.
That was his response. That was Putin's response. Now here, ED calling for dialogue.
Because you talk and talk. You may not agree, but it is better to talk and find yourselves.
We may not agree, but it's better to talk and find yourselves. Better to talk than to fight.
Well, what would you say, how would you assess the move by many Western countries now that, I mean, is a clear escalation where they've said that Western-supplied weapons can be used to strike Russian territory? How would you assess the effects that decision...
All right, he's being asked about Russian territory, things to do with Russia. How does he respond?
Going to have?
No, look, they make their own decisions, but...
Now, look, they make their own decisions. Don't ask me about that. Let's talk about us.
We, in Zimbabwe, what we call for is dialogue. If there is any conflict or...
He goes back, we in Zimbabwe. Back in Zimbabwe, what we call for is dialogue. That is it, straight up.
Or any area of disagreement.
Any area of disagreement.
Let leaders stand up. And
let leaders stand out.
And go for dialogue and resolve issues of difference, of conflict, through dialogue. Not move to a situation where people die.
Not move to a situation where people die. It is almost August and almost the SADC summit. And yes, there's the story that there may be protests at the SADC summit. And we're seeing here Hakainde Hichilema not backing down or refusing to be silenced. How does he respond? What does he say?
This one who knows that we're opening barracks. This country has security partnerships with many countries since
Security partnerships with many countries since independence.
independence. We have military attaches ourselves.
We have military attaches ourselves.
Your fellow citizens are military attaches in many countries. I hope you know what a military attaché is. And we do have here as well reciprocal. That's not equivalent to a barrack.
Now, a certain message is a double message, right? He uses the word military attaché. Military attaché is an alternative word. I'm speaking to you, my citizens, okay? You may have an uprising. So listen, I'm going to tell you a very complicated word, all right? But I'm going to tell the people out there, I have connections. I am strong. I am linked with many militaries. I have many military relations. Listen, I have many military even with Russia.
We're now emotionally charging citizens. When you get arrested because there's a law against that, you say, oh, media freedoms have been taken away. And governments share.
So he's keeping his people in check. What was happening in Zambia following the utterances in Russia? Before the utterances in Russia, we saw Edgar Lungu coming back into politics.
Former Zambian President Edgar Lungu has said he's getting out of retirement and rejoining active politics. Lungu has since launched a bid to lead the patriotic.
So we saw Edgar Lungu now back again, wants to lead the Revolutionary Party there, the Patriotic Front, the PF in Zambia. And anyways, Lungu has his own trouble. He's under house arrest. His wife and kid were arrested.
Speaking as of now, I can safely and confidently tell you that Zambia's democracy is under siege, under very, very serious threat. Like today, this afternoon, a party belonging to the alliance of political parties in the opposition, New Heritage Party, was scheduled to hold a public rally in the Chipata compound.
All right. So now we see Edgar Lungu there in his bid again.
Children being arrested over issues of graft. Some people are saying that if somebody has committed a crime, you are a lawyer, they should be dealt with according to the law. And your wife and children were arrested. They are going through the legal process. Why wouldn't you allow the legal process to unfold? And then you can react. How do you respond to that?
I'm not stopping any legal process being done. You know, I have been called a thief, corrupt, and all sorts of names.
So now Edgar Lungu he's a lawyer, by the way, a very clever response. Remember, when you are speaking to the ordinary citizen and also speaking to intellectuals and speaking to strategists.
But no one has told me what I stole or wherein lies my corruption. And I told
But no one has told you what I stole.
The people, I said, if you find any corruption, please bring it forth. And they've not done that. They've decided to peel my family like an onion.
All right, so we see him.
Airing their opinion and views.
Mr. President, some of your critics are saying that similar things happened during your presidency and that cadres or supporters from the Patriotic Front disrupted activities of the UPND when they were in opposition, and that they said you don't have the moral right, they said, to criticize similar actions that are happening now.
Okay, what does it do? You did the same thing, you have no moral right to criticize that. Okay, does he defend himself? No. Rather, he uses a psychological technique where he doesn't respond to the question. Now, not responding to the question makes the audience or the listener forget the first question anyways. Then they take his point that he gives in his response. Then they forget the whole context of what is being talked about.
How do you respond to that?
I don't know whether I have the moral right or not, but I can tell you it was bad for the Zambian people to be done by me. It can't be better to be done by HSS. That's why the Zambian people say no.
It was bad. If it was bad done by me, it can be better being done by anybody else. So he uses this psychological technique by putting in a point that is that one can't argue with. A true fact. He puts a true fact, right? So he has shifted the attention. So what was happening in Zambia following President Ed's utterances? We saw war veterans here.
Was that the national, provincial, district, constituencies word
Let's mobilize our people. So we're seeing some small flash mobs there in Zambia.
Only our people, when they are fully mobilized, fully aware of where their country is, fully aware of what the causes of their sufferings are, we will start to see a reversal of fortunes.
Sympathize with him. We do not blame the police because we know how they are being used by the UPND government. We know we have professional men and women in uniform, but they are being abused by this regime of President Hichilema and his government. We were given the permission by the police to go ahead with the rally, but now we are receiving different level instructions that the rally has been cancelled.
The only thing you can draw from all this is that games and politics by police. Come here at the Riverside Police Station to see the officer in charge who issued the permit that to go ahead on the rally, but his phones are off. His junior officers can't attend to us. No senior officers giving us a proper answer. So we will be seeking further redress from our courts of law because this unlawlessness has been happening and we just can't be.
These guys had been barred from holding their rally in Zambia. Yes, things are happening in Zambia right about now, and there's rumors that Hakainde Hichilema has vowed to fight President ED at the SADC summit. So now what will happen at the SADC summit? Because if there are protests at the SADC summit there, the Zimbabwe security forces cannot do anything about it in the eyes of all those SADC people. Or will they not do anything? Will they not do anything about that?
We want to save the people of Zambia with respect and dignity, including the police officers that are abused today. As also respect to provide leadership and alternative. As Coca-Cola province, we will continue mobilizing the party and we are appealing to all of you to come and join the party that has got direction.
All right, we see now it's already campaign. Now, back to Zimbabwe. What has been happening in Zimbabwe? We saw this leaked video clip of businessman Clark Makoni making claims that he went to report a robbery, but it was him that would get arrested instead, Now the Zimbabwe police has made a response to this one, and they are denying the claims by Clark Makoni. Now Clark Makoni is a Goromonzi businessman, right? And the police are actually saying that this guy is actually in an attempted murder case. This is what was said actually by the Zimbabwe spokesperson commissioner Paul Nyati, dismissing Makoni's allegations as false, and the correct position is that. So this is a case that is before the courts, despite a prohibition order issued by the provincial mining director to stop any form of mining activity. The parties have not complied. On 5 June 2024, a confrontation ensued between Makoni and Moyo, resulting in Makoni shooting Moyo's vehicle with a firearm, deflecting one of the tires. Nyati said the officers at a security roadblock took the parties to Juru police station, where Makoni pointed a firearm at rivals and refused to cooperate with police officers. Makoni has since been charged with attempted murder, contravening the Firearms Act, pointing a firearm at a person, contravening the Cyber and Data Protection Act, and conduct likely to provoke a breach of peace. Now, this is a very hard time for this businessman, because he said to have drawn his firearm even in front of police officers. So his case, there's going to be a lot of witnesses that will be deemed credible at law. However, I'm not here to give people legal advice, so we're just gonna skip this story right about now. Anyways, we saw another thing, a leaked audio. Chivayo shocking boasting that I've captured President Emerson Mnangagwa in the system. He was claiming that he has captured Mnangagwa. All right. So he says, after the election, I'm 10 to 20 times more after the elections last year than I was before. Right? So Wikneo Chivayo got a contract to supply Zimbabwe Election Commission with election materials, and he got $40 million from that. So there's been speculation that this audio is a deep fake generated by artificial intelligence. But my question is, alright, let's say it's fake. How about the details of that audio clip? Are the details fake also? Are the details fake? Let's say it's a fake generated by AI. Are the details also fake? Now, this is a very, in other words, this is a very serious. Anyways, enough respect to everybody who was watching us live right about now. Dr. Clarence, TV7 Live. I'm going to sign out. Enough respect.